The reason your aquarium keeps developing algae may not be a weak filter, cheap media, or a lack of water changes. It may be that you are asking a closed glass box to process more waste than the plants inside it can handle. While one of the most effective biological tools is sitting unnoticed on a shelf across the room. Common houseplants can pull nutrients directly from aquarium water, grow above the surface, and produce enormous root systems that many submerged plants cannot match. But there is a dangerous side to this method that most people barely mention. Put the wrong part of the plant underwater. Leave a small amount of fertilized soil between the roots. Or move a pesticide-treated plant directly from a nursery into your tank. And the natural filter you hoped to create can become a source of rot contamination and rising ammonia. The difference between a thriving riparian aquarium and a dying plant hanging over cloudy water often comes down to only a few centimeters of placement. Later, I will show you the exact cleaning and acclimation process. But first, you need to understand why this method works, what it cannot do, and why the third plant on this list may grow so aggressively that you will spend more time trimming it than trying to keep it alive. Most aquarium keepers understand the basic nitrogen cycle. Fish release waste. Uneaten food, damaged leaves, and decaying organic material break down. Beneficial bacteria convert toxic ammonia into nitrite and then into nitrate. But the filter does not make that waste disappear. It mainly transforms highly dangerous nitrogen compounds into a form that is usually less immediately toxic. Nitrate continues accumulating until it is removed through water changes absorbed by plants or processed through other biological pathways. This is where many aquariums reach a frustrating limit. The filter may be mature. Ammonia and nitrite may remain at zero. The water may still contain enough nitrate and dissolved nutrients to support persistent algae, especially when lighting, feeding, circulation, and plant growth are out of balance. A larger filter can hold more biological media and capture more debris, but it does not automatically remove all the nitrate being produced. That is why adding another filter sometimes improves circulation while doing very little to solve the underlying nutrient problem. Terrestrial plants approach the problem differently. Their leaves remain in the air, where carbon dioxide is much easier to access than it is underwater. They are not forced to extract limited dissolved carbon through submerged leaves. When terrestrial plants receive enough light and begin producing new foliage, they need nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and trace nutrients to support that growth. If their roots are sitting in aquarium water, some of those nutrients can come directly from fish waste. This does not make them magical. One small cutting will not clean an overstocked aquarium overnight. It means that a healthy and rapidly growing houseplant can become a powerful nutrient export system. Every leaf and stem you prune contains nutrients that were previously dissolved in the aquarium. When you trim and remove that growth, you physically remove part of those nutrients from the system. There is another advantage that is easy to overlook. Roots create habitat. Shrimp graze across their surfaces. Newly hatched fish hide between the fine strands. Microorganisms colonize the submerged structure. The aquarium begins to resemble the edge of a stream pond or flooded riverbank, where roots, branches, and plant debris constantly interact with the water. However, comparing an aquarium to nature can create a dangerous misunderstanding. Natural rivers have enormous water volume, continuous flow, changing chemistry, rainfall, sediment, sunlight, and complex food webs. Your aquarium is still a small artificial system. Houseplants can support filtration, but they do not eliminate the need for biological media, sensible, stocking water testing, debris removal, and appropriate water changes. They may reduce how quickly nitrate rises, but nitrate is not the only substance that accumulates. Dissolved minerals, compounds, and other waste products can remain even when a test kit shows a low nitrate reading. The goal is not to stop maintaining the aquarium. The goal is to make it more stable and allow living plants to carry part of the workload. The first plant that can do this exceptionally well is the peace lily, also known as spathiphyllum. It is often sold as a low-light indoor plant, which makes it attractive for rooms where strong natural sunlight is unavailable. Its broad green leaves create an instant jungle effect above an open aquarium, and its root mass can become thick, pale, and highly branched after it adapts to water. But the most important part of using a peace lily is understanding its crown. The crown is the central area where the roots and leaves meet. The roots can remain in water, but the crown and leaf stems should stay above the surface. When the crown is held underwater continuously, moisture becomes trapped around tissue that is not adapted to permanent submersion. The plant may soften, darken, and begin rotting from the center. At that point, the damage is not only cosmetic. Decaying plant tissue adds organic material to the aquarium and increases the biological load. The safest mounting position keeps the root system wet, while allowing the crown to remain dry and exposed to air. Peace lilies are also associated with toxicity concerns because their tissues contain irritating calcium oxalate crystals. This is especially relevant to animals that chew the leaves. Many aquarium fish ignore healthy peace lily roots, but you should not assume that every species will behave the same way. Large herbivorous fish, curious goldfish, or fish that constantly damage plants may not be suitable companions. Keep the leaves above the aquarium. Observe the fish carefully, and remove the plant if you notice persistent chewing or unusual irritation. The second plant is lucky bamboo, Dracaena sanderiana. Despite its common name, it is not a true bamboo. It is a type of Dracaena, and it is one of the easiest plants to use above a tall aquarium. Its upright stems can rise cleanly above the surface, while the roots spread below, creating a structured and almost architectural appearance. The common mistake is submerging the entire stalk and assuming that because lucky bamboo is often sold in water, every part of the plant can survive underwater indefinitely. The lower, root-producing section can remain wet, but the leafy growth should stay above the water. If most of the stem and all the leaves are submerged, deterioration is likely. Several stalks positioned along the back of a tank can create a dense root curtain that shrimp and small fish use as shelter. However, do not pack the roots directly against the filter intake. A root system that begins as a few clean strands can eventually restrict water flow, trap debris, or enter an impeller chamber. Give the plant room to grow and inspect the equipment regularly. The third plant is the one many people underestimate, Tradescantia zebrina, commonly called the inch plant. It is famous for its purple, silver, and green foliage, as well as its ability to produce roots from cuttings with very little encouragement. Unlike slower decorative plants, Tradescantia can produce visible new growth rapidly when light and nutrients are available. That speed is exactly what makes it useful above an aquarium. A fast-growing plant requires a constant supply of nutrients. When its roots are drawing from aquarium water, some of those nutrients come from the same pool that supports algae. This does not guarantee that Tradescantia will eliminate hair algae within a few days. Algae can also be caused by excessive light, unstable carbon availability, overfeeding, accumulated debris, poor circulation, or unhealthy submerged plants. But increasing healthy plant growth can reduce the amount of freely available nutrients and make algae easier to control as part of a complete maintenance strategy. Tradescantia should not be treated like an ordinary submerged aquarium stem plant. Do not push it into the gravel and expect the leaves to survive underwater. Instead, take a healthy cutting, remove the leaves from the lowest node, and secure that bare section near the surface. Roots will emerge from the node while the colorful leaves remain in the air. The plant can trail along the aquarium rim, grow across a nearby shelf, or hang from a simple holder. Its main disadvantage is also its greatest strength. It may grow too quickly. Under strong light, it can spread across the aquarium, block light from submerged plants, and become visually untidy. Regular pruning is not optional. Pruning is part of the filtration process. When you cut and remove excess growth, you remove the nutrients that the plant absorbed from the aquarium. The fourth plant is the spider plant, Chlorophytum comosum. Mature spider plants produce small plantlets on long runners. These plantlets are ideal for aquarium use because they can be separated without digging up a large, soil-filled root ball. A healthy plantlet can be positioned so that its developing roots touch the aquarium water while its center and leaves remain above the surface. Over time, clean white roots extend downward and create a suspended, grass-like appearance. This is one of the simplest ways to add terrestrial growth without placing a large and heavy adult plant on the aquarium rim. The critical point is to keep the center of the plantlet out of stagnant water. Like the peace lily, the crown can rot when it remains submerged. Spider plants may also develop brown leaf tips because of water chemistry mineral buildup, inconsistent moisture, or contaminants. One damaged tip does not necessarily mean the entire setup has failed. But widespread browning soft roots or a foul smell means you need to inspect the mounting position and water quality immediately. The fifth plant is Monstera adansonii, often called the Swiss cheese vine. Its perforated leaves make it one of the most visually dramatic choices for an aquarium display. It may grow more slowly than Tradescantia, but it can develop thick sculptural roots that make the area above and below the waterline feel like one connected landscape. Monstera adansonii works particularly well when the aquarium includes driftwood or a branch rising above the surface. The vine can be guided along the wood while its roots descend into the water. Over time, aerial roots may grip damp surfaces and create the appearance of a miniature riverbank forest. But slower growth also means slower nutrient consumption. Do not choose Monstera only because it looks impressive, and then expect it to process the waste produced by an overstocked aquarium. Think of it as part filtration, part habitat, and part design feature. It still needs healthy leaves, adequate lighting, and enough space to develop. At this point, all 5 plants may sound easy to use. Clean the roots, place them in water, and wait. That oversimplified advice is responsible for many failures. The process should begin before the plant gets anywhere near your aquarium. First, choose the source carefully. A cutting taken from your own pesticide-free plant is usually safer than a newly purchased ornamental plant that may have been treated with insecticide leaf polish, systemic pesticide, or slow-release fertilizer. Washing can remove loose soil and some surface residue, but it cannot guarantee that every chemical used during commercial production has disappeared. When the plant's history is unknown, the safest approach is often to propagate a clean cutting in a separate container and wait for it to produce new roots. This is particularly easy with Tradescantia and Monstera. For plants that arrive in soil, remove the pot and gently loosen the root ball. Do not pull the roots apart violently. Work slowly under lukewarm water and separate the roots using your fingers. Continue rinsing until no obvious soil remains. Soil trapped deep inside the root mass can cloud the aquarium, introduce fertilizer, and decay in low oxygen pockets. A soft toothbrush can help remove stubborn material, but aggressive scrubbing can damage fine roots and cause even more dieback. The goal is not to make every root look polished. The goal is to remove soil fertilizer pellets, dead tissue, and anything else that should not enter the aquarium. Inspect the roots while cleaning them. Healthy roots are usually firm. Depending on the plant, they may be white, cream, tan, or light brown. Rotten roots are often soft, slimy, hollow, dark, or foul-smelling. Trim damaged sections using clean scissors. Do not leave a large mass of decomposing roots and assume the aquarium bacteria will process it without consequences. After cleaning, quarantine the plant in a separate container filled with dechlorinated water. 3 days can be used as a minimum observation period, but a longer quarantine is safer when the plant's treatment history is unknown. Change the water during quarantine and watch for an oily film, unusual odor, dying insects, fertilizer granules, or rapid root decay. Quarantine cannot guarantee the removal of every systemic chemical, which is why plant source remains important. The most cautious option is to use a cutting that develops an entirely new root system away from the aquarium. Once the plant is prepared, you need a reliable mounting system. Acrylic plant holders, hydroponic baskets, filter compartments, suction cup holders, rigid foam supports, and custom rim clips can all work. A holder must perform 3 jobs. It must keep the plant stable, keep the roots in contact with the water, and keep vulnerable stems, crowns, and leaves above the surface. Do not wedge a plant loosely between the aquarium lid and the glass, where it could fall into the tank overnight. Do not allow terrestrial leaves to rest permanently on the water surface. A leaf that occasionally gets splashed is not the same as a leaf held underwater for several days. Permanently submerged terrestrial foliage often turns yellow, becomes transparent, and begins to decay. Position the roots away from heaters, because direct contact with hot equipment can damage them. Keep them away from moving impellers and make sure they do not block an overflow filter intake or surface agitation. Then, expect an adaptation period. Roots developed in soil and roots developed in water do not always behave in the same way. After transfer, some older roots may darken or die back, while new, pale roots begin to emerge. Leaf growth may temporarily slow down. This does not automatically mean the plant is dying. The important difference is between controlled root replacement and spreading rot. A few old roots darkening, while firm new roots appear, is often manageable. A soft crown collapsing, stems foul odor, cloudy water, and widespread tissue breakdown indicate a serious problem. Remove the plant trim, away the rot, improve its mounting position, and test the aquarium water. During the first few weeks, monitor ammonia nitrite and nitrate rather than trusting appearance alone. Do not add 5 large, recently cleaned plants to a small aquarium on the same day if you do not know how they will respond. Introduce them gradually. This allows you to identify which plant is shedding roots or reacting badly without overwhelming the aquarium. Lighting is the next limiting factor. The roots may be inside a brightly illuminated aquarium, but the foliage above the tank still needs suitable light. A plant placed in a dark corner may survive without growing strongly. A plant that barely grows will not absorb nutrients at the rate you expected. At the opposite extreme, intense lighting can scorch the terrestrial leaves or encourage algae if too much light reaches the aquarium water. Adjust the position so the foliage receives useful light without turning the tank into an algae farm. If the plant begins growing toward a window, rotate it or guide it carefully. Avoid placing the aquarium where direct midday sunlight can cause overheating. Fertilization also requires restraint. Never pour ordinary houseplant fertilizer into an aquarium containing fish, shrimp, or snails. Products designed for soil-grown plants may contain nutrient concentrations or ingredients that are not appropriate for aquatic animals. In many stock tanks, fish food and waste provide enough nitrogen to support moderate terrestrial plant growth. If nutrient deficiencies appear, use only products intended for aquarium use and dose according to the needs of the complete system, not the instructions printed on a houseplant fertilizer bottle. More growth is not worth destabilizing the water. Root maintenance becomes increasingly important after the plants establish themselves. Fine roots trap particles. Thick roots occupy swimming space. Long roots can surround hardscape or enter filter equipment. Every few weeks, inspect the root mass and remove dead or excessive sections using clean scissors. Do not cut every root back at once. Reduce the root system gradually so the plant retains enough healthy tissue to absorb water and nutrients. Prune the foliage as well. Removing old leaves improves airflow and redirects energy into new growth. With Tradescantia regular, cutting keeps the plant compact and prevents it from covering the aquarium. With Monstera, guide the vine before it grows behind furniture or begins pulling against its support. With Lucky Bamboo, make sure the stalks remain stable as their upper growth becomes heavier. There are also several myths that need to be corrected. The first myth is that these plants directly oxygenate aquarium water. Their leaves perform photosynthesis in the air, but this does not mean they release a large amount of oxygen directly into the aquarium. Their submerged roots also respire and consume oxygen. Maintain adequate circulation and surface agitation, especially in warm or heavily stocked aquariums. The second myth is that houseplants can replace the aquarium cycling process. Plants may absorb ammonium and other nitrogen compounds, but they should not be used as an excuse to add fish to an immature aquarium without testing the water. Beneficial bacteria remain essential. The third myth is that a nitrate reading of 0 means the aquarium no longer requires maintenance. A low nitrate reading can be encouraging, but it does not measure every dissolved substance or every form of organic pollution. Water changes may still be needed to control mineral balance, remove dissolved waste, and maintain stable conditions. Let test results, livestock behavior, feeding, stocking, and water chemistry determine the schedule. Do not copy someone who claims to change water only once a month. Their aquarium volume tap water fish load feeding routine, substrate, lighting, and plant mass may be completely different from yours. The fourth myth is that adding one nutrient-hungry plant automatically cures algae. Houseplants can help, but successful algae control still requires you to examine lighting duration, light intensity, food input, circulation, debris buildup, and the health of the other plants. If hair algae continues spreading, do not keep adding more houseplants while ignoring direct sunlight or uneaten food trapped beneath decorations. The fifth myth is that every fish will leave the roots untouched. Bettas, small tetras, rasboras, shrimp, and many peaceful community fish often coexist well with root systems, but individual behavior varies. Goldfish and other plant-eating species may chew, uproot, or destroy them. Large fish may pull the support loose. Observe your own aquarium instead of treating general compatibility advice as a guarantee. Open-top setups also increase evaporation. As warm aquarium water and exposed roots release moisture, the water level may fall faster than expected. Top off the aquarium with appropriate water, but remember that topping off replaces evaporated water. It does not remove accumulated minerals. Secure the aquarium if you keep jumping fish, and make sure hanging vines cannot be reached by cats or other pets. The entire method can be reduced to one simple principle: roots in the water, vulnerable plant tissue in the air, and no soil or unknown chemicals entering the aquarium. Peace lily provides broad foliage and a dense root system. Lucky bamboo adds height and structure. Tradescantia offers rapid growth and powerful nutrient export through frequent pruning. Spider plant plantlets create fine white roots and a clean, grassy appearance. Monstera adansonii transforms the aquarium into a living design feature with climbing vines and sculptural roots. None of these plants is a miracle filter, but when they are combined with mature biological filtration, sensible feeding, stable water parameters, and regular observation, they can make the aquarium more resilient and visually impressive. The real transformation is not simply clearer water. It is the moment you stop treating every trace of fish waste as something that must be trapped inside plastic filter media, and start directing part of it into living growth that you can see, prune, and control. That is how a glass box begins to resemble the edge of a natural waterway. Start with one clean cutting, instead of rebuilding the entire aquarium overnight. Watch the roots test the water and allow the plant to prove that it is adapting before adding another one. If this video helped you avoid a dangerous setup mistake, tell me which of these 5 plants you would place above your aquarium. Subscribe for the next guide, where we will build a simple plant holder that keeps the roots underwater without allowing the crown to fall below the surface.